Our dear colleagues at the Ministry of Defense have demonstrated a very important job here. When one enters this place, one sees nothing but hard work and effort, and alongside that, a passion for progress. With the dedication of the ministry's staff and senior managers, they have been able to produce equipment that is much better than in the past, which possesses both superior capabilities and high quality. Furthermore, they have been able to bring it to the production stage in much greater quantities than before.
Is Tehran preparing to hit U.S. bases and the Gulf with even deadlier missiles, as Iran's arsenal keeps expanding? Iran shows off secret missile production, while UAE cages its oil tanks against the growing threat from IRGC drones. Dubai airport behind metal bars? UAE turns key targets into giant cope cages as fears of Iranian drone strikes rise. What does Abu Dhabi know about Iran's drones? And why is the UAE suddenly fortifying its most critical sites? This as Iran opens the doors to its secret underground missile factory, revealing a deeper layer of Tehran's war preparations. If Iran attacks again, will America defend its U.S. allies first, or rush to save its own vulnerable bases across the Gulf? Abu Dhabi builds a roof over the apocalypse, a cage around its weakest nerves as the Iranian threat looms larger. Taking lessons from Russia's anti-drone playbook, the UAE has adopted new methods of defense to protect critical infrastructure. The United Arab Emirates is securing crucial infrastructure with metal cope cages, creating an additional layer of physical protection. The low-tech, large steel mesh structures are reportedly designed to defend against Iranian Shahed drone strikes targeting key facilities. A viral and unverified video on X showed large metal structures surrounding fuel storage tanks in the UAE, raising questions over the new defenses. This reportedly signals the completion of steel and mesh structures that the UAE has been installing since May 2026. The cope cages are already reportedly in place around key oil and gas storage tanks in Abu Dhabi, protecting vulnerable infrastructure. Dubai International Airport, which was previously attacked by Iran during the war, has also reportedly been surrounded by similar protective structures. Fujairah port and the Habshan natural gas site have also reportedly been secured with these metal cages, according to reports. The exact number of protected locations remains unclear, while Fujairah alone hosts around 100 million barrels of oil storage capacity. The cages are also known as barbecue grills, designed to create a physical barrier that can interfere with or intercept incoming drones. It was Russia that began widespread use of these cages around oil storage tanks and refineries as drone attacks intensified. Russia installed large steel mesh structures to help protect critical sites from Ukraine's long-range drone strikes during the war. Nets and cages are reportedly now lining key Russian sites across hundreds of kilometers along the war's front line. This comes as Ukraine continues to target crucial Russian energy infrastructure with long-range drone attacks, keeping the threat alive. Iran's security chief threatened earthquake-like retaliation against Trump, according to Iran International. Mohsen Rizoi warned that Iran would strike back if Trump took further military or economic action against Tehran. He also warned Iran's neighboring countries against joining Washington's economic campaign, saying cooperation could make them targets. Mohsen Rizoi said, and I quote, "We tell all the countries around us not to join the United States in its economic war, otherwise we will consider them enemies. We are not seeking to expand the war, but if countries around Iran cooperate with the Americans in the economic war, we will strike their interests. If countries around Iran cooperate with the Americans in the economic war, not a drop of oil will leave through the Strait of Hormuz, and we will also target other routes through which oil is exported." Unquote. Rizoi also called for changes to Iran's diplomatic approach, citing what he described as repeated U.S. breaches of previous commitments. Rizoi also accused Trump of creating greater nuclear insecurity by launching military attacks against Iran. Mohsen Rizoi said, and I quote, "Trump has created nuclear insecurity instead of nuclear security. Iran has accepted all international safeguards, has complied with them, is a member of the NPT, and has agreed to inspections. Iran is the only country that is ahead of all other countries in its commitment to nuclear regulations."
On the naval blockade is nothing new. We have been under a naval blockade for several months now, yet we have continued to sell our oil. In just the past 1 or 2 months, we have sold 70 million barrels of oil. The first week after the agreement was a good week because we shipped out the 70 million barrels of oil we had on hand. Every day, we are selling oil equal to our daily production despite the presence of U.S. naval vessels. That is what Mr. Trump's naval blockade has amounted to. If he, Trump, decide to take further action, our response, our retaliation, will be seismic. First, we will tell all neighboring countries and countries around the world not to join the United States in its economic war. Any country that takes part in imposing economic restrictions on us will be regarded as an enemy. Of course, we will first negotiate with them. We will hold talks and tell them to step aside and distance themselves from the United States. But if they do not act, we will strike. We will target that country's interests.
On August 22nd, Iran said its weapons and defense equipment output doubled over 1 year, despite strikes on limited parts of its military-industrial sector. Defense spokesman Reza Tlaib announced the increase on state television, according to Sputnik, presenting the rise as proof of Iran's expanding domestic defense capacity. The surge came despite U.S. and Israeli strikes on parts of Iran's defense industry, as Tehran claimed its military production network absorbed the damage. Tehran said some defense facilities were damaged during the reported 12-day war, acknowledging that enemy strikes reached selected parts of its industrial base. But Iran claimed production never stopped as its military kept using weapons, saying factory output continued alongside efforts to replenish combat losses. Reza Tlaib said, and I quote, "Our production volume in the past year has increased twofold in terms of weapons and defense equipment produced in our country. This is despite the fact that during the 12-day war, some limited and specific parts of our defense industry were also among the targets of the enemy's strikes during their aggression against our country." Unquote. Tehran credited a vast supply network for keeping its defense production lines moving, spreading design, research and manufacturing work across thousands of domestic partners. Around 8,000 private and knowledge-based firms previously worked with Iran's defense sector, supporting weapons research, components, maintenance and industrial production. Iran says the network has now expanded to roughly 9,300 to 9,400 companies, widening the domestic base that supports military manufacturing. That represents growth of approximately 20% in 1 year, according to Tehran's figures, as Iran claims to be increasing self-reliance under pressure. More than 1,000 types of weapons and defense systems are now produced, Iran says, ranging from missiles and drones to air defenses and other equipment. Universities and private companies also support defense production, linking academic research, technical expertise and commercial industry to Iran's military sector. Iran says 76% of defense research projects reach the product stage, suggesting a large share of development work progressed into fieldable systems. Tehran also claimed its domestic arms industry can produce weapons far more cheaply, using local supply chains and indigenous technology to cut costs.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HD app. Download now